A millionaire left his wallet on the table to test the waitress. Matthew Kane was a man who had everything money could buy, an empire built on grit, determination, and an unrelenting pursuit of success. His life was a parade of luxury, gleaming cars, sprawling estates, and a net worth that placed him among the wealthiest in the world. But beneath this veneer of opulence lay a man whose heart had grown cold and distrustful, scared by years of betrayal and broken promises. Despite his wealth, Matthew was lonely. He had come to see people as either obstacles or opportunities, never as genuine companions. This cynicism consumed him, and as he sat alone in his penthouse one evening, a nagging question crept into his mind. Was there anyone left in the world whose kindness and honesty were real, untainted by ulterior motives? On a whim, Matthew decided to test his question in the unlikeliest of places, a small, humble diner on the edge of the city, the kind of place he hadn't visited since his early days when money was scarce and ambition was his only currency. The test begins. The diner was modest, with vinyl booths and the comforting smell of fried food. The waitress, a young woman named Lily, approached him with a warm smile and genuine cheer. Her name tag hung slightly askew, and there was a sparkle in her eyes that spoke of resilience and hope. She treated every customer with the same warmth, whether they were a regular in worn-out clothes or a sharply dressed stranger like Matthew. As he ate his simple meal, an idea formed in Matthew's mind. He would test Lily's honesty. After paying his bill, he deliberately left his wallet on the table and excused himself to the restroom, glancing over his shoulder as he walked away. Would she take the wallet, or would she return it? When he returned, his wallet was gone. His heart quickened. Had she really taken it? But before he could act, Lily approached him, holding the wallet in her hands. "Sir, I think you left this behind," she said with the same gentle smile. "I figured you wouldn't want to lose it." Matthew nodded, masking his surprise and disappointment. She had passed his test, but he couldn't shake the feeling that it might have been a fluke. He decided he needed to dig deeper. Persistence and discovery. The next day, Matthew returned to the diner with a plan. This time, he engaged Lily in conversation. She spoke openly about her life, mentioning that she was working double shifts to support her sick mother and put herself through school. Despite her hardships, she radiated optimism and determination, never once complaining about her circumstances. Again, Matthew left his wallet on the table, and again, Lily returned it without hesitation. Over the following weeks, Matthew continued his visits, leaving behind cash, a watch, and even a signed blank check. Each time, Lily returned the items, her demeanor unchanged. She never pocketed so much as $1 more than he owed for his meal. Matthew began to see her differently. What started as a test of honesty evolved into a deep curiosity about her character. He admired her resilience and integrity, qualities he had long believed to be extinct. The turning point. One evening, Matthew overheard Lily speaking with another waitress. She spoke softly, but with evident worry about her mother's deteriorating health and the mounting medical bills. She confessed she might have to drop out of school to care for her mother full-time. Her voice cracked, but she quickly composed herself, returning to her duties with a smile. A pang of guilt pierced Matthew's heart. He had been testing her honesty, while she quietly shouldered burdens far heavier than he had imagined. That night, he left a generous tip alongside his usual test. When he returned the next day, he found that Lily had taken only enough to cover the cost of his meal, leaving the rest behind. This act of selflessness broke something in Matthew, a wall he had built around his heart. Lily's unwavering honesty and humility shone a light on the cynicism that had consumed him for so long. A plan to give back. Matthew realized he wanted to help Lily, but he knew offering her money outright would insult her pride. Instead, he devised a plan. The next evening, he approached her with a proposal. "Lily, I run a business and need someone reliable to assist me. You're hardworking, honest, and dedicated. Exactly the kind of person I need. The pay is better than what you're making here, and you'll gain valuable experience. What do you say?" Lily hesitated, unsure if she was qualified for such a role, but Matthew reassured her. Eventually, she agreed, grateful for the opportunity but unaware of his true intentions. Transformation and revelation. In her new role, Lily proved to be just as diligent and trustworthy as she had been at the diner. She managed Matthew's schedule, organized his files, and quickly became an integral part of his life. For the first time in years, Matthew found himself trusting someone completely. One day, while organizing his desk, Lily stumbled upon an old photograph. It showed her late father standing beside a younger Matthew, both men smiling as if sharing a private joke. Her heart raced as memories flooded back. Her father had once been a successful businessman, but had left that life behind after a falling out with his partner. Realizing the connection, Lily confronted Matthew. He admitted the truth. Her father had been his closest friend, and the person who had taught him the value of integrity. Their falling out had left a void in Matthew's life that he had never been able to fill. Seeing the same values in Lily had reignited something in him, a desire to honor her father's legacy. A new beginning. Matthew's perspective shifted profoundly. Inspired by Lily's influence, he began using his wealth to help others. He started a foundation to support families struggling with medical expenses and created scholarships for students in need. He asked Lily to manage the foundation, making her the director. Through her new role, Lily not only transformed her own life, but also became a beacon of hope for countless others. Her integrity had not only restored Matthew's faith in humanity, but had also inspired him to change the world for the better. And as they worked side by side, Matthew realized that true wealth wasn't in the money he had accumulated, but in the relationships he nurtured and the lives he touched. The unfolding truth. Weeks passed, and Lily settled into her new role as Matthew's assistant. Despite her initial doubts about her qualifications, she adapted quickly, bringing the same diligence and humility to her work as she had to the diner. She managed Matthew's demanding schedule with remarkable efficiency, streamlined his operations, and even introduced small changes that improved workplace morale among his staff. For the first time in years, Matthew felt a sense of companionship. Lily's honesty and optimism were infectious, slowly breaking down the walls of his guarded heart. Still, he couldn't help but feel a lingering unease. The truth about her father, his old friend and business partner, remained a secret. Matthew feared that revealing their connection would dredge up painful memories or make her question his motives for offering her the job. But the truth has a way of surfacing, even when least expected. The photograph. One crisp autumn afternoon, as Lily tidied Matthew's office, she stumbled upon an old, dusty envelope tucked beneath a stack of reports. Curiosity got the better of her, and she carefully opened it to find a faded photograph. Her breath caught in her throat. The photo showed two young men standing side by side, grinning with an air of camaraderie. One of them was unmistakably Matthew, younger and less hardened by time. The other man was someone she knew all too well, her father. A flood of memories surged through her. The evening spent listening to her father recount tales of his business ventures, his decision to leave it all behind to spend more time with the family, and the quiet sadness he carried, which she now understood was tied to his unresolved falling out with Matthew. Lily clutched the photograph and stared at Matthew, who had just walked into the room. His expression shifted from surprise to resignation as he realized what she had found. Confronting the past. "You knew my father?" Lily asked, her voice a mixture of astonishment and accusation. Matthew nodded, gesturing for her to sit. He took a deep breath, knowing there was no point in hiding the truth any longer. "Your father was more than just a business partner to me," Matthew began, his tone heavy with emotion. "He was my best friend. Together, we built the foundation of the company that became my empire. But greed, pride, and misunderstandings drove a wedge between us. I made mistakes I've regretted ever since." Lily listened intently, her emotions swirling. She had idolized her father for his principles and integrity, and now she was learning of his connection to the man who had become her mentor. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. Matthew hesitated. "At first, I didn't realize who you were. By the time I did, I wasn't sure how to tell you. I didn't want you to think my offer was some sort of guilt-driven charity. You earned this job because of who you are, not because of your father's legacy." Lily's eyes softened as she saw the sincerity in his face. She could tell that Matthew was grappling with emotions he had long buried, healing old wounds. Over the next few days, the atmosphere between them shifted. Matthew opened up about his past, sharing stories of her father, their shared dreams, the arguments that led to their falling out, and the lessons he had learned from their partnership. "He was the most principled man I've ever known," Matthew said one evening. "And for years, I was too proud to admit how much I admired him. Losing him as a friend was one of the greatest losses of my life." Lily, in turn, shared her father's side of the story. He had spoken of Matthew with equal parts respect and sorrow, often lamenting the friendship that had been lost. Their conversations became a form of healing for both of them, mending the invisible threads of a relationship that had been severed long ago. Lily began to see Matthew not just as her employer, but as someone deeply human, capable of growth and redemption. A new vision. Inspired by Lily's unwavering determination and the lessons of his past, Matthew decided to channel his resources into something greater than himself. Together, they began brainstorming ideas for the foundation he had been quietly planning. "I want this to honor your father," Matthew said, "but I also want it to reflect the values you've shown me: honesty, compassion, and resilience." Lily suggested a focus on providing scholarships for students from underprivileged backgrounds, particularly those facing family or health-related challenges. She also proposed funding healthcare initiatives for families burdened by medical bills, inspired by her own struggles with her mother's illness. As the foundation took shape, Matthew found a renewed sense of purpose. His wealth, once a symbol of isolation, became a tool for connection and change. Transformation and gratitude. As months turned into years, the foundation flourished, touching countless lives. Lily, now the director of the organization, became a beacon of hope for those in need. She spoke at events, sharing her story and inspiring others with her journey from a struggling waitress to a leader making a difference. Matthew, too, underwent a profound transformation. No longer the cynical, distrustful man he once was, he became an advocate for generosity and mentorship. His relationships deepened, and he found fulfillment not in material possessions, but in the impact he made on others. One day, as they stood together at a scholarship award ceremony, Matthew turned to Lily and said, "You've taught me more about life than all my years in business ever did. Your father would be so proud of you." Lily smiled, her eyes shining with gratitude. "And I think he'd be proud of you, too, for choosing to change and for honoring his memory in the best way possible." Together, they had turned a chance encounter into a story of redemption, healing, and the power of integrity. Through their efforts, they proved that even in a world of skepticism and doubt, kindness and honesty could create ripples of change that touched lives far beyond their own. Ripples of redemption. The transformation of Matthew Kane's life, sparked by Lily's integrity, began to send ripples far beyond the boundaries of their lives. As their foundation grew, so did the lives it touched, creating a network of stories woven together by the common thread of hope. The Kane-Lily Foundation for Integrity and Compassion, as it was eventually named, became a beacon of opportunity for countless individuals. It didn't just hand out scholarships or fund medical expenses. It fostered a culture of paying it forward. Recipients were encouraged to contribute to their communities, forming a cycle of compassion that stretched farther than Matthew or Lily had imagined. A scholarship with a story. One such recipient was a young man named Aaron Rivera, who came from a struggling single-parent household. Aaron had dreams of becoming a doctor, but his family's financial situation made it seem impossible. When he received a Kane-Lily Foundation scholarship, it wasn't just a lifeline. It was a second chance. Aaron worked tirelessly in medical school, driven by gratitude and a deep desire to help others as the foundation had helped him. Years later, he would return to the foundation as a guest speaker, sharing how their support had enabled him to establish free health clinics in underserved areas. Standing before the crowd, Aaron said, "Your kindness not only changed my life, but gave me the tools to change the lives of so many others." In the audience, Matthew and Lily exchanged a glance, their hearts full. Aaron was one of many, but his story encapsulated everything they had hoped to achieve. A legacy built not on wealth, but on impact. Challenges along the way. Of course, the path to building such a legacy was not without its challenges. As the foundation grew, so did the scrutiny. Critics questioned Matthew's motives, accusing him of using philanthropy to clean his public image. Skeptics doubted Lily's qualifications, labeling her a lucky waitress who had stumbled into her position. These doubts stung, but Lily and Matthew faced them with unwavering determination. Lily worked harder than ever, ensuring the foundation's operations were transparent and its impact measurable. Matthew used his business acumen to secure partnerships with other organizations, amplifying their reach and silencing detractors with results. Their commitment to honesty and integrity, the very principles that had brought them together, became their shield against criticism. Slowly but surely, the narrative shifted, and the foundation earned respect and admiration, not just for its mission, but for the sincerity with which it was run. Matthew's personal growth. For Matthew, the journey was as much about personal redemption as it was about helping others. The foundation's success wasn't just a testament to Lily's influence. It was a mirror reflecting his own transformation. He began reconnecting with people he had pushed away over the years, reaching out to old friends, former colleagues, and even estranged family members. One particularly poignant moment came when he visited the grave of Lily's father, a man whose integrity had shaped both their lives in profound ways. Standing before the simple headstone, Matthew whispered an apology and a promise to honor his friend's memory not just with words, but with actions. This act of reconciliation was a turning point for Matthew, allowing him to let go of the guilt and regrets that had weighed him down for decades. In doing so, he found a peace he hadn't known in years. Lily's growth and vision. Lily, too, experienced profound growth. Running the foundation gave her a platform to share her story and inspire others, but it also pushed her to develop skills she never thought she had. She became a skilled public speaker, a strategic planner, and a compassionate leader. Yet Lily remained humble, never forgetting her roots or the lessons she had learned during her time at the diner. She often returned to visit the staff, leaving generous tips and words of encouragement. She wanted them to see that success didn't have to come at the cost of kindness. One evening, as she sat in her old booth with a cup of coffee, she noticed a young waitress who reminded her of herself. The waitress seemed overwhelmed, but maintained a polite smile as she served tables. After the meal, Lily left a note along with her tip. It read, "Your kindness matters. Keep being you, and great things will come." A full circle moment. Years later, the foundation hosted its largest gala yet, a celebration of the milestones they had achieved. The room was filled with scholars, donors, and beneficiaries, each with a story of how the Cain Lily Foundation had touched their lives. Lily took the stage, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "When I was a waitress in a small diner, I never imagined that one day I'd be standing here. My story is proof that honesty and hard work, no matter how small they seem at the time, can create ripples that change lives." Matthew, standing at the back of the room, watched her with pride. For all his wealth and achievements, this was what he considered his greatest success, enabling Lily to shine and watching her inspire others. After her speech, Matthew joined her on stage. "Lily reminded me of something I had forgotten," he said. "That true success isn't measured by what you accumulate, but by what you give, and that the greatest investment you can make is in people." The crowd erupted in applause, not just for the speech, but for the journey they had taken together. a journey that had turned pain into purpose and doubt into hope. The legacy lives on. The Cain-Liley Foundation continued to grow, its impact reaching far beyond its origins. Matthew and Lily's partnership became a symbol of what could happen when honesty met opportunity, and when two people chose to believe in each other. And though their lives had started in vastly different places, they shared a common truth, that the simplest acts of kindness and integrity could create legacies that endured for generations. Their story was no longer just about a millionaire and a waitress. It was about the power of redemption, the beauty of trust, and the ripple effect of doing what is right, even when no one is watching. A ripple becomes a wave. The Cain-Liley Foundation had become a force of nature, changing lives across the globe. Yet for Matthew and Lily, the work felt far from done. Their journey, fueled by shared values and a relentless desire to leave the world better than they found it, was continually evolving. Both understood that the foundation's success wasn't just about financial resources. Its heartbeat was the stories of resilience, generosity, and transformation that echoed from every corner of the world it touched. Matthew often reflected on how this all began, with a single wallet left on a table. The simplicity of that moment now seemed almost poetic. But as the foundation grew, so did its challenges. Expansion brought complexity, and the weight of responsibility began to test their resolve in new ways. Facing adversity together. The Cain-Liley Foundation's ambitious projects soon attracted attention from powerful interests who saw philanthropy not as a noble cause, but as a tool for influence. Certain donors sought to sway the foundation's policies, hoping to use its growing reputation for their own gain. One such instance involved a large pharmaceutical company offering a substantial donation with strings attached. They wanted the foundation to exclusively promote their overpriced medications, despite the availability of cheaper, equally effective alternatives. It was a tempting offer, but one that came at a cost to the foundation's principles. Lily, now fully entrenched as the foundation's director, faced the decision head-on. "We built this on honesty and compassion," she said firmly to Matthew during a late-night strategy session. "If we compromise now, everything we've worked for will lose its meaning." Matthew, once a man who might have prioritized profit over principle, agreed without hesitation. Together, they rejected the offer and doubled down on their commitment to transparency, even though it meant slowing some of their initiatives. The decision was not without backlash. Some criticized the foundation for turning down funds that could have helped thousands. But for Matthew and Lily, staying true to their mission mattered more than immediate results. Their resolve inspired their team. And soon, alternative partnerships began to emerge, ones that aligned with their vision. An unexpected reunion. One day, while reviewing applications for the foundation's scholarship program, Lily came across a name that stopped her in her tracks: Margaret Evans. The name belonged to a woman who had been a regular customer at the diner where Lily had worked years ago. Margaret had always been kind, often leaving small tips and encouraging words, though her modest demeanor hinted at her own struggles. Curious, Lily reached out to Margaret, inviting her for a conversation. What she learned was both heartwarming and heartbreaking. Margaret's husband had passed away, leaving her to raise their two children on a teacher's salary. Her eldest child, Sophie, was a promising student who dreamed of becoming an engineer but lacked the means to pursue higher education. Hearing this, Lily felt a wave of gratitude for the path her life had taken, and a determination to ensure Sophie's dreams weren't derailed. She and Matthew personally visited Margaret's home, surprising the family with news that Sophie had been awarded a full scholarship from the foundation. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "Lily, I always knew you were destined for something great," she said, her voice trembling. "But seeing you here, helping us in such a profound way, I don't have the words." The encounter reminded Lily and Matthew why they had started the foundation. Each scholarship, each grant, and each life touched was a testament to the power of kindness and integrity. A vision expands. As the foundation grew in impact, so did its ambitions. Lily and Matthew began to envision a world where they could address systemic issues rather than just individual needs. They launched programs aimed at tackling the root causes of inequality, including financial literacy workshops, healthcare access initiatives, and mentorship networks. One groundbreaking project was the Kane-Lily Leadership Initiative, which brought together young leaders from diverse backgrounds to develop innovative solutions for their communities. The program's participants were encouraged to use their unique perspectives to tackle challenges like climate change, poverty, and education reform. The initiative produced extraordinary results. One group of participants, inspired by Lily's story, developed a sustainable model for community-based healthcare clinics, ensuring that even the most remote villages had access to basic medical care. Another group designed an app that connected underprivileged students with volunteer tutors, bridging gaps in education with modern technology. Matthew and Lily were often invited to speak at global conferences, sharing the foundation's vision and encouraging others to embrace the values that had transformed their lives. Each time, they emphasized the same message: the smallest actions, grounded in honesty and compassion, could spark waves of change, personal growth, and gratitude. Through their work, Lily and Matthew both continued to grow as individuals. Lily, who once doubted her ability to lead, had become a confident and respected figure. Her speeches were often met with standing ovations, and her ideas were sought after by world leaders and grassroots activists alike. Matthew, too, had shed the remnants of his old self. The hardened, cynical man who once tested a waitress's honesty had been replaced by someone deeply invested in others' well-being. He found joy not in his wealth, but in the relationships he had built and the lives he had touched. One quiet evening, after a particularly successful fundraiser, Matthew and Lily sat together, reflecting on their journey. "Do you ever think about how this all started?" Matthew asked, a soft smile on his face. Lily laughed. "How could I forget? You left your wallet on the table, and I thought, who does that?" They both chuckled, but the moment carried a deeper meaning. That small act, born of Matthew's distrust and Lily's integrity, had set in motion a series of events that neither could have predicted. "It's funny," Lily continued. "I thought I was just doing my job that day. I didn't know it would change my life, or yours." "It changed mine more than you'll ever know," Matthew said, his voice tinged with gratitude. Legacy beyond measure. As the years went on, the Kane-Lily Foundation became a symbol of hope and integrity, its influence stretching across continents. But for Matthew and Lily, its true legacy was in the individual lives it had touched and the values it had upheld. In their final public appearance together, Matthew, now older and wiser, addressed a room filled with foundation supporters. "If there's one lesson I've learned," he said, "it's that wealth and success mean nothing if they don't serve others. And if you're lucky enough to meet someone like Lily, who reminds you of what truly matters, hold on to that. Let it change you." Lily, standing beside him, added, "We may never know the full impact of what we've done, but if even one person carries forward the values of honesty, compassion, and resilience, then everything we've worked for has been worth it." Their words left the room in awe, a final testament to a partnership that had turned a simple test into a legacy of change, a ripple that had become a wave. The enduring legacy. As the years passed, the Kane-Lily Foundation continued to flourish, its mission expanding across new horizons. However, the foundation's success was not just measured by its growing numbers, accolades, or financial contributions. The true testament to its impact lay in the profound, transformative influence it had on people's lives, on communities, on young leaders, and on Matthew and Lily themselves. New horizons of change. By now, Matthew and Lily had expanded the foundation's scope beyond the borders of their initial projects. They had branched out into international humanitarian work, reaching countries where access to education, healthcare, and clean water remained limited. Together, they forged partnerships with local grassroots organizations, learning about the struggles people faced and tailoring their efforts to meet those needs. In a small village in sub-Saharan Africa, for example, the foundation helped build a sustainable water purification system that provided clean drinking water to thousands. This initiative wasn't just about providing a resource. It was about teaching local communities how to manage and maintain their water supply, ensuring that future generations would benefit long after Matthew and Lily were gone. In Southeast Asia, they focused on providing scholarships and career mentorship for women in impoverished regions, empowering them to pursue higher education and break free from cycles of poverty. Many of these women went on to become influential leaders in their own right, shaping the future of their communities and inspiring others to do the same. Each of these projects, small as they may have seemed in the face of the world's overwhelming problems, was a testament to the Foundation's guiding principle that every act of kindness, no matter how seemingly insignificant, could create lasting change. The unseen struggles. Despite the accolades, the praise, and the overwhelming sense of achievement, not everything was as easy as it appeared. Matthew and Lily had weathered their fair share of challenges along the way, from political unrest in certain regions to unforeseen logistical obstacles. Yet it was their shared resolve to remain true to their original mission that allowed them to overcome each setback. One such challenge came when they attempted to extend their medical initiative to a war-torn region in the Middle East. They faced resistance from local authorities and were confronted by armed conflict that delayed their project for months. There were moments of doubt, moments when they questioned whether they had the resources to continue or if the risk was worth it. It was during this time that Matthew, in an honest conversation with Lily, revealed a vulnerable side of himself he had rarely shown. "I used to think that wealth was all I needed," he admitted one evening after a particularly harrowing day of trying to negotiate a ceasefire for their medical supplies to get through. "But now I know that sometimes no amount of money can fix a broken system. It's not always the resources you have, but the resolve in your heart that carries you through." Lily, with her characteristic calm, placed a hand on his shoulder. "We've come this far because we believed in what we were doing. We can't stop now, not when there's so much left to do." It was moments like this, when the weight of the world seemed too heavy, that they leaned on each other, reaffirming the strength of their partnership and their unwavering belief in the Foundation's mission. The generational impact. One afternoon, after a particularly successful round of donations for a clean energy project in South America, Matthew and Lily sat in a quiet garden on the grounds of their Foundation's headquarters. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows on the beautifully manicured lawns. "Do you ever think about how all of this will be remembered?" Matthew asked, watching the golden light glimmer through the trees. "I mean, will it last beyond us?" Lily smiled softly, her eyes reflecting a sense of peace. "I think it will, Matthew. We've created a foundation built on integrity, and we've given so many others the chance to lead. That's how legacies endure, by passing the torch to the next generation." The Foundation had not only helped individuals, but had also cultivated a new generation of philanthropists, leaders, and activists who embraced the same values Matthew and Lily had fought for. Scholarships from the Cain Liley Foundation were now funding university students who would go on to teach, heal, and lead. Former recipients had become mentors themselves, helping young people navigate the challenges they faced with the same support they had once received. Lily's story, once a quiet tale of resilience in a diner, had transformed into an international movement. Her example inspired others, especially young women, to stand tall in their truth and pursue careers in leadership, science, law, and business. Matthew, who had started this journey as a man riddled with skepticism, had now become a symbol of growth, a man who had learned to trust, not just in others, but in the goodness of humanity itself. His story was one of redemption, and through his actions, he had taught people the importance of second chances, whether for themselves or for others. A quiet legacy. While the Foundation's reach was global, Matthew and Lily found peace in the small, quieter moments of their work. One of these moments occurred when Matthew attended a modest ceremony in a rural village in India, where a school funded by the Cain-Liley Foundation was being inaugurated. The school was small but filled with hope. Children, some of whom had never before held a textbook, sat in neat rows, eagerly waiting to begin their lessons. As Matthew watched the children interact with their new teachers and school supplies, he realized that the greatest rewards didn't come from the grandiose events or from the media attention. Instead, they came from the tangible change they were making in people's lives. Lily was with him that day, as she had been for so many others. But this time, she turned to him with a quiet smile and whispered, "This is what it's all about, isn't it?" Matthew nodded. "Yes, this is the legacy we leave behind, one life at a time." The final chapter. As they grew older, both Matthew and Lily knew that the time would come when they would need to step back, handing the reins over to a new generation of leaders. Though the thought of stepping away from the foundation was bittersweet, they both knew that they had built something far bigger than themselves. Their legacy would continue to thrive through those who shared their values and carried their torch. On a calm evening, as Matthew sat on the porch of his home, reflecting on everything he had accomplished, he thought back to the wallet he had left on that table. The simple test that had led him to discover not just Lily's character, but the true depth of humanity. What began as a test had blossomed into a movement that would carry on long after they were gone. Lily, standing beside him, placed her hand on his. "We did good, didn't we?" Matthew looked out at the horizon, the quiet satisfaction filling his heart. "Yes, Lily, we did." And in the end, the Cain-Liley Foundation was more than just a charity. It was a living testament to the power of integrity, the beauty of compassion, and the enduring legacy that one small act of kindness can ignite in the world. Beyond the horizon, as the years continued to pass, the Cain-Liley Foundation continued to grow in both scope and impact, but Matthew and Lily knew that the world was constantly changing. New challenges emerged, and while their legacy was already cemented, they had not yet fully answered the most important question of all: how to create lasting, systemic change that would outlive their time. Their journey was not just about providing immediate relief, but about sowing the seeds of long-term transformation. Both knew the importance of empowering others to lead, and it became clear that the future of the foundation, and of the world they were trying to change, depended on nurturing leaders who would carry the torch with the same integrity and vision that had guided Matthew and Lily from the very beginning. A new vision for a changing world. Matthew and Lily sat in the boardroom of the Cain-Liley Foundation headquarters, surrounded by a team of passionate individuals who had grown into the next generation of leaders. Together, they had worked on projects in over 40 countries, from education and healthcare to environmental sustainability. However, as Matthew looked around the room, he felt the weight of an idea that had been slowly forming in his mind. "The world is changing faster than we ever anticipated," he said, his voice tinged with the same quiet urgency that had once driven his business ventures. "Technology, climate change, social movements, they're all reshaping the world we know. If we want to keep up, we need to rethink how we approach our mission." Lily, sitting beside him, nodded thoughtfully. "I agree. We've always focused on the immediate needs, but we also need to look at the bigger picture. Our mission has always been about integrity and compassion, but those are values that need to permeate every aspect of society. It's not just about charity, it's about systemic change." This marked a pivotal moment in the Foundation's evolution, a moment when they realized that their work could no longer just be about responding to crises. They had to become a force for rethinking the very systems that caused those crises in the first place, building a global network. In the years that followed, the Cain-Liley Foundation began to pivot. While continuing their previous work in education, healthcare, and poverty alleviation, they also expanded their efforts to tackle the root causes of inequality, climate change, and social injustice. They began to work with local governments, corporations, and global organizations to create more equitable systems that did not simply react to problems but proactively prevented them. One of their most ambitious projects was the creation of a global network of impact hubs, collaborative spaces in cities around the world where young entrepreneurs, activists, and leaders could come together to solve some of the world's most pressing challenges. These hubs, funded by the foundation, became incubators for ideas that could drive meaningful, sustainable change. From developing clean energy solutions to creating new models for affordable housing, these hubs became a breeding ground for the next generation of social innovators. But this shift in focus was not without its challenges. For every successful partnership and breakthrough idea, there were setbacks. Some projects were met with resistance from entrenched political systems or corporate interests that saw the foundation's efforts as a threat. And while many celebrated the progress they made, there were times when Matthew and Lily felt the frustration of battling against forces that seemed intent on preserving the status quo. Yet, these challenges only strengthened their resolve. In those moments, when progress seemed slow, they often reminded themselves of how far they had come. They had learned that true change didn't happen overnight. It was a process that required patience, resilience, and an unshakable belief in the power of good. The rise of a new generation. As the foundation expanded, so did its influence, but it wasn't just about the projects or the initiatives. It was about the leaders who emerged from the ranks of the foundation's programs. Many of them were young, driven individuals who had been mentored by Matthew and Lily, who had learned firsthand the power of integrity, compassion, and leadership. One of these individuals, Amaritan, a young woman from Nigeria, became a shining example of the foundation's vision. After receiving a scholarship from the Cain Liley Foundation, Amara went on to become a successful environmental activist, advocating for sustainable farming practices in her home country. Her efforts helped transform entire communities, reducing deforestation and promoting biodiversity. "I owe everything to the foundation," Amara said during an international conference, addressing an audience of young leaders. "It was through the mentorship I received that I learned not just how to lead, but how to lead with purpose." The ripple effect of the foundation's work continued to grow. Across continents, there were countless others like Amara, young leaders who had been empowered to make change in their own communities, carrying forward the lessons of integrity, honesty, and compassion. Matthew and Lily often attended the foundation's leadership conferences, but they began to take more of a behind-the-scenes role, allowing the new generation to take center stage. It was a bittersweet shift, but it was one that they both knew was necessary for the foundation to continue evolving. "I think it's time we passed the torch," Matthew said one evening, watching a new group of young leaders prepare to speak at a summit. "These young people, they have the fire, the vision, the energy. Our job now is to guide them, not lead them." Lily smiled. "We've already done the hard part. Now we get to watch the world change." A new legacy takes shape. It became increasingly clear that Matthew and Lily were no longer just the founders of a charity. They were the architects of a movement. What they had created was a legacy that was beginning to take on a life of its own. The Cain Liley Foundation wasn't just about helping individuals anymore. It was about reshaping how the world approached generosity, leadership, and compassion. At the foundation's 30th anniversary gala, Matthew and Lily sat together in the audience, watching the speeches of young leaders who had once been recipients of their programs. The room was filled with an electric energy, a sense that the world was on the cusp of something truly transformative. As one of the keynote speakers, Amaritan took the stage. She spoke of the future with optimism. "We are the ones who will reshape the world," she said, her voice ringing out across the room. "And we do it not because of what we've received, but because of what we are giving. The world has changed, but it's only the beginning. There is still so much to do." Matthew and Lily, sitting quietly in the back of the room, exchanged a glance. There was no need for words. Everything they had worked for was right there in front of them. A new generation of leaders was emerging, ready to carry the foundation's mission into the future. The final horizon. As Matthew and Lily began to transition into more advisory roles, they spent more time reflecting on their lives. They took long walks in the countryside, spent quiet evenings at home, and continued to mentor the new generation of leaders. Their days were simpler now, but they were filled with the same sense of purpose that had driven them for so many years. One day, while watching a sunrise from their shared garden, Lily turned to Matthew and said, "You know, I used to wonder if we would ever see the change we hoped for. But now, I don't have to wonder anymore. It's happening." Matthew nodded, feeling the deep peace settle within him. It is happening, and it will continue long after we're gone. The foundation had grown into something beyond what they had ever imagined, a living, breathing testament to the power of integrity, the ripple effect of kindness, and the unyielding strength of a compassionate heart. And as the world continued to evolve, so too did their legacy. One act of kindness, one empowered leader, and one inspired soul at a time. The full circle. As the years unfolded, Matthew and Lily slowly stepped back from their daily roles in the Lily Foundation. Their physical presence in the foundation had lessened, but their influence remained, deeply woven into the fabric of everything the organization stood for. They had built something much larger than themselves, a legacy that would continue to evolve and inspire long after they were gone. One quiet afternoon, as Matthew and Lily sat on the porch of the house they had once imagined for their retirement, a simple, peaceful space surrounded by nature, they took a moment to reflect. The wind rustled the trees, and the sounds of birdsong filled the air. There was a sense of tranquility, a fulfillment that only time could bring. Lily turned to Matthew with a smile, one that was full of both contentment and a quiet knowing. "Do you ever think about where we started?" she asked. Matthew laughed softly, his eyes distant as he looked back on their journey. "I think about it every day. It started with a test, a simple test of honesty, and we've seen so much more than we ever imagined. And now look at the world," Lily added, her voice filled with pride. "So many people we've never met, whose lives we've changed. But more importantly, so many who have taken what we started and built on it, who've made it their own." Together, they realized that the essence of their journey wasn't just in the tangible accomplishments. It was in the people they had helped to become their best selves. It was in the leaders they had nurtured, the communities they had uplifted, and the generations they had inspired. The power of small actions. Matthew and Lily's story, though extraordinary, was built on a simple principle, that small, deliberate acts of integrity and kindness had the power to ignite profound change. What had begun as a simple test of a waitress's honesty had turned into a movement that redefined what it meant to live with purpose. Their story was a reminder that one person, one decision, one choice could shift the trajectory of a life and a society. Sometimes the world is changed not by grand gestures, but by the quiet, consistent commitment to doing the right thing when no one is looking. The ripple effect of this commitment can spread farther than one can ever imagine, touching lives in ways that transcend time and place. As they thought about the future, Matthew and Lily were not concerned with monuments or statues in their honor. They were content knowing that their greatest legacy was the lives they had touched and the hearts they had inspired. The work they had begun was not over. It was an ongoing journey that would continue long after they had passed from this world. The final lesson. One afternoon, as they walked hand in hand along the familiar path near their home, Matthew spoke softly, as if sharing a thought that had been on his mind for some time. "The truth is, Lily, we never really know how far our actions reach. We don't know how many people's lives we'll touch or what kind of difference we'll make." Lily nodded, her smile serene. "We don't, but that's what makes it worth it. We do the right thing, not because we're guaranteed to see the result, but because it's the right thing to do. That's what integrity is all about, doing what's right without expecting anything in return." Matthew paused for a moment, taking in the weight of her words. And sometimes, the greatest reward isn't in what we receive, but in knowing that we've helped someone else along the way. They both stood in quiet reflection, realizing that their journey, which had begun with skepticism and doubt, had come full circle. What they had learned, and what they had taught the world, was that the true measure of a life wasn't in wealth or power, but in the impact one had on others. The simplest choices made with integrity could transform not only an individual's life, but the world itself. The legacy lives on. In the years that followed, Matthew and Lily passed on, as all people do, but their legacy endured. The Cain Liley Foundation continued to flourish, its mission evolving to meet the needs of an ever-changing world. The young leaders who had been mentored by Matthew and Lily took their places, continuing to inspire and lead with the same values of honesty, compassion, and integrity that had guided the foundation from its inception. Their story, of a millionaire testing a waitress's honesty, became a legend passed down through the generations. It served as a reminder that kindness, integrity, and compassion were never out of reach. The simplest actions could create ripples of change that reached across continents, across cultures, and across time. And in the end, the greatest gift Matthew and Lily left behind wasn't their wealth or accomplishments, but the knowledge that one person's actions, one small act of kindness, could change the world. This concludes the story. Thank you for watching until the end. I hope you found it enjoyable. If you did, please consider liking the video and sharing it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell for more captivating stories. Have a great day.